Hey guys, welcome to my very first studio vlog. We are making a piece for an exhibit, so buckle up. This is a bit of a doozy, but I hope that it's entertaining for you, and I also hope that it is relatable. So right now I'm brainstorming for the exhibit. As you can see, I'm sketching, and these are quite loose sketches. They aren't perfect. We're just exploring ideas. So the point here is to just get everything that's in my head onto the page. It doesn't matter if the construction or the anatomy is perfect. It doesn't matter if the eyes have the exact expression I want them to have. It's more so about just getting my ideas onto the page, because when you are brainstorming for something, a lot of the times, for me specifically, but I know that a lot of artists go through this as well, you'll have visuals and compositions kind of run through your head, but you don't really have time to flesh out each one to a full, expanded, thorough extent with every single tiny detail. It's a lot better to thumbnail your ideas rather than try to make rough drafts, so to speak, or like thorough sketches of each one. It can be a lot more helpful and a lot more efficient to do thumbnails. So that's essentially what I'm doing here. Thumbnailing looks different for everyone. Some people thumbnail in way tinier boxes than this. Some people thumbnail on postcards or index cards to make sure that they're working in a really small frame and not working too large of a scale. I like to just thumbnail a little bit more intuitively and just doodle on the page in a sketchbook, because I feel like things just kind of flow out a little bit better for me that way, because I can always scale down and just literally clip by drawing a square or rectangle or whatever I need around the ideas that are working. And the point here is to just get into a place of playfulness and feeling happy while I draw. It's not about feeling super focused and being really technical. It's a lot healthier to feel playful and excited, because that's when you get a lot more movement and creativity, and I feel like the ideas are a lot more thoughtful as well. I also do a lot of annotation and note-taking in a pretty literal sense, so my thoughts move really quickly. So sometimes if I have a bunch of ideas, I'll just literally start writing down words so I don't forget what my ideas were, so that I can make room for each thing that I want to make the time to thumbnail, so that I can really give full attention to every possibility. From that first round of sketching and note-taking that you saw me do, I actually got a pretty solid idea that I feel comfortable moving forward with and expanding a little bit more, taking up the whole sketchbook page, as you can kind of see here. And I have my reference back there on my iPad. So here I'm starting to laser in on an idea that genuinely just feels fun. It doesn't feel like something that's out of my scope to do. It doesn't feel like not to talk about the doesn't and isn'ts, but it just feels fun and I feel drawn to it. So I'm kind of just following that and seeing where it takes me. So if you're watching this video now, I'm actually already done with the exhibit piece, but in the background of me working on it, there were quite a lot of things going on in my life. My birthday happened, my TikTok hit 100K followers, and I started getting a lot of PR packages and brand deal type things, and that was really exciting, but it was a lot to juggle to balance all of that into my life, just because like working in animation already, like I feel like I'm so busy and sometimes really tired and overwhelmed. So I made sure this summer to make time to have some time for me and do a little bit more of the things I like to do. I love to walk around in West Hollywood and grabbing a random bite to eat. One of the fun gifts that my brother got me for my birthday was a bunch of random gift cards, and Jimmy John's was one of them, so I grabbed that in Beverly Hills. It was actually super hot this day, but my makeup stayed in place thanks to all of the makeup PR I got. I'll plug a little snippet right here of what I recorded for them. I finally have the full coverage I've been looking for without my skin feeling too cakey. If you like lightweight makeup that nurtures your skin, grab yours today. How did I do, you guys? Wasn't that cute? And just like anybody else, I watched the crazy, polarizing season 7 of Love Island USA. And as a fun distraction from all of the exhibition stuff, I worked on some Love Island fan art, so check that out on my Instagram if you haven't already. But this is me just talking about my process working on the little fan art thingy.
So I'll probably wake up at like 6 and do... They literally have like no hands. Like let me show you.
And I didn't even get a chance to finish my process video for that illustration because my anemic fatigue was so bad. But anywho, farewell, Love Island. Thank you for the memories. Now back to exhibit preparation since we have had enough distractions for the summer. At this point, this was like late July, early August, and I knew that I needed to make some merchandise to go along with the exhibit, but once again, I had some PR come in, and that was a fun little distraction, so let's unbox some PR together. As far as the exhibit goes, in terms of the merchandise and everything, what I mean by merch is that the exhibit allows all of the artists to sell merchandise in the gift shop during the duration of the exhibition. So I thought it would be a good idea to sell prints and do something that also fits the theme of the exhibit for my merchandise. So I'm going to be making like a second print basically for the gift shop. This PR I received is just a pack of stickies and also some makeup contour, but wait, there's more. Drum roll please. I was also sent this pink selkie wagon. The gifts really did start to pile on after a while, and while I'm very grateful, it also is a lot of work to make these videos, and I'm really grateful for you guys who watch my videos and that, you know, give me views and support and allow me to receive items. I want to make my stuff as engaging as possible, so let me know if you'd like to see art or beauty unboxing on here too. My easel finally arrived. Thank you so much, Meeden, for this gigantic easel for me to do my exhibit piece on. I don't know if I should name her. Do people name their easels? Any hoozles, this is the easel all put together in all of its glory, and I am going to put an easel putting together video together on here, so let me know if you want to see that. But who cares about that, because now we are finally making the piece. Today is the day. So what I'm thinking so far for the piece is I want it to be about 5 feet tall on smooth mixed media paper, sketched in graphite, and I'm going to use a projector to scale my drawing to size. I'm going to pop in a picture of the projector that I'm using if that's helpful for you guys if you're thinking about using or incorporating a projector into your creative process. This is a huge roll of mixed media paper that I got from a local art place. I'm just trimming it right now. This whole process I was kind of not putting off, but it definitely took a little bit more time than I was expecting just because this is a huge piece of paper, so I had to move a lot of stuff in my apartment around just so that I could really make space for trimming this thing and not getting my measurements wrong. But I knew like as long as I trim it a little bit larger than what the piece needs to be, I can always clip down the further along I get in the process. It's easier to clip down when you have excess paper, so I mainly just wanted to trim a certain amount of it off so that I could just easily put it up on the easel, move it around, and get this huge roll out of the way. Rule of thumb, make sure that you have excess that you can just trim off later. You don't want to over trim your paper or over trim your canvas because then you're not going to have enough room to work on. You could end up doing less than what you actually wanted to do scale wise. And don't mind the fact that I have my doggies covered up. I would never show them for free, so yes, I'm putting an emoji over them because the internet can be a strange place. Don't get any wise ideas. And Also, I'm literally having to like roll around on this paper with my entire full body just to make sure that I have my measurements nice and clear. This piece of paper is about the same height as me. It's roughly exactly 5 feet and some change. I believe I made it like 5'3". So something around there, 5'1", 5'2", something like that. I'm 5'2" for reference. So I made it about my height roughly, but as you can see, I'm putting a more specific line for where exactly I want to cut the paper, because I think, actually now that I'm looking at it, I think I'm doing 4 feet. Yeah, I think this is 4 feet. So that way it can fit in my car. This is where I started to realize the logistics, what I was working on, and that I was going to need to scale back and make some adjustments if I was going to transport this piece to the exhibit properly. I drive a pretty small car, so after a while doing this whole preparation thing, I was just like, how am I even going to get this there? So that's when I decided, okay, instead of 5 feet, we're going to do 4 feet. So I cut the paper to be about 5 feet, like something around my height, but the line that I'm making here is the 4 feet mark, because that's where I'm going to have to cut it for real, and it's something like a bleed line basically. But now we are clipping the paper to the easel. I had cut the paper off screen, or off camera I should say, and we're finally clipping it to the hardboard so that we can get to work. It's been a while since I've had to prepare a piece in this way. I don't really have to do much traditional art for work outside of observational sketches and character sketches, things like that. And it can be really nice to do projects like this and be able to break the monotony of working digitally all of the time and using things like Photoshop, Procreate, Creative Suite, yada yada. And I also really believe in being resourceful and using what you have. While I was happy to support a small business and go to this local art supply place that I've been going to a lot more lately, I also have a lot of leftover art supplies from high school and college, and I wanted to make the most of those and see if I could use as much of those as possible for this piece. As you can see here, I'm kind of contemplating the size of the piece, kind of imagining, is this truly what I'm going to be doing? Do I want to stick with it? What do I want to do? And I'm also kind of figuring out, like, do I need to clamp the bottom, or is it going to be enough to just put something down to kind of weigh this like rolled part of the paper down so it can stay in place and not disrupt the process of me actually drawing and everything. As you can see, I decided to put the ruler there, and now we're taking a break. So now we are cleaning up the sketch in Procreate. This is one of the sketches that I did earlier in the video in my sketchbook, and I really resonated with this one a lot more out of some of the other sketches that I did. So I decided, let's just go with this one. It's fun. I feel like it's pretty solid. You get the general idea of Yo Gabba Gabba and what it's about. So yeah, as you can see, this is the sketch when I was working on it earlier. And we have have all of our materials ready to go. I'm going to be using colored pencil, and I have a lot of art supplies left over from high school and college. This is a pencil sharpener that I held onto all this time. And this is it. This is my studio setup. If there's one piece of advice I can give to artists who get overwhelmed when they're drawing and when they are having a lot of ideas or they might have a large workload to cover, one thing I remind myself when I'm overwhelmed is that eventually I will get to a flow state. And that's basically a state where I'm feeling confident and I'm making visible progress and just doing the work. It's not super glamorous. It's not like you just finish in 3 seconds or 5 seconds. You're not finishing super quickly or anything, but you're getting the work done and you're not feeling, ideas of self-loathing or anything like that. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I just know as artists, we are sometimes dramatic and even emotional people. And I don't think I'm very externally dramatic, but I do sometimes in my head assume the worst a little bit. And sometimes I really get doubtful about what I'm doing while I'm working on it, and I'm in a constant state of like problem solving instead of just enjoying the process and having faith and trust in my own skills. Art is not always this healing thing or this healing experience. I think sometimes people mythologize it or mystify it in that way, and that's not really the case for me. I think for me, part of it is it's like a brain exercise. It allows me to exert some of that mental energy, that rumbly, anxious mental energy in a constructive, creative way. But also, it allows me to be awkward. I think a big part of being awkward, a big part of being human is being awkward and accepting your awkwardness. We're not robots, and even the most efficient, qualified, accomplished, decorated character designer is having moments of awkwardness and problem solving and trial and error in their creative process, or I think they are. That's what I tell myself to make myself feel better. If you're an accomplished, decorated character designer, I would love to know your thoughts and if you feel like you go through periods of flowing through awkwardness in your creative process, because if you do, we have that in common. And if you aren't a decorated, accomplished character designer and you do something else, something that isn't necessarily animation or drawing related, I'd love to know your thoughts on the creative process and if you feel awkward while you're working, because I feel like this has to be some type of universal experience of sorts, because if I'm experiencing it and I'm able to articulate it in this way, I'm sure it's a shared experience that other people experience too, even if they don't necessarily articulate it in the same way as I do. But I know that being a human, having the human experience, I'm not unique. So I'd love to know how other people interpret this feeling, because I know it exists elsewhere. I know it exists outside of myself in other places and in other people. And I feel like by kind of sharing that and expanding on it and talking about it, it helps me to just remember that the creative process isn't super formulaic, or at least it's not always meant to be. I think especially in animation, things can be kind of rigid with turnarounds and model sheets and color keys. There's this need to keep everything on model, and there's not so much that like more, I don't know, like intuitive side of things sometimes. Like sometimes in the more like developmental or like earlier conceptual side of things, you have some of that, but it gets to a point where things become fully super technical, and you can't lose sight of that. But it's a little bit, it's become a reward of sorts to be able to tap into that like awkward side of myself and that awkward side of my creativity in my own drawings, my own art outside of like work and projects and stuff, because it reminds me that I have my own voice, so to speak, outside of projects that I've worked on, and it's important for me to honor that, and I'm hoping that that's what I'm doing here. Actually, more than hope, I think that is what I'm doing here, even if I don't really recognize it in the moment, because when I was working on this, I didn't feel like, oh, I'm doing this thing where I'm recognizing my own humanity and creativity, and that it didn't feel like that at all. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and I knew I had a deadline on the way, and I knew, okay, I need to put in at least X amount of hours into this to make this time worthwhile, to not waste the 24 hours that I have, so that way my journey ahead is a lot easier. So the more I can get done today, figuring out the color palette, figuring out how I'm going to layer these colored pencils, that's going to make my life a lot easier 2-3 weeks from now, when I'm wanting to kind of lock in and solidify the piece and get things to more of like a finishing point. If you've been following me for a while, you've probably noticed that I didn't post as much artwork this year compared to years before, and I just haven't really been that happy to do it. I don't know, I just feel like when I sit down to draw sometimes I feel a little miserable and it's felt awkward. But what I've learned most this year by taking a little bit of a break and just focusing on having fun is I really enjoy being in this place of sorting through this awkward feeling. And speaking of awkward feelings, I had really horrible period cramps. But back to the art piece itself and less of my emotional rambling. I guess I want to take some time to talk about my actual process, and if you're wondering if I scribbled in these little circles the entire time, the answer is yes, I did, because with colored pencils, especially with Prismacolors, because they are oil based, it is best to take a layering approach like this. You don't want to go in super duper duper hard, at least not in my experience. I haven't come across colored pencils that are very forgiving when it comes to really like hard pressure mark making and layering. Usually you have to start very light and kind of layer it on, but I'd love to know your technique and what's worked for you. I'm sure other people have tried techniques where they go in with like a really hard pressure right away and like layer on top and it still works out, but like I don't possess that skill or technique, and I haven't really observed anything like that so far. So this is just kind of the method I've used pretty much since I was in like high school and was first introduced to Prismacolors. I've only done like super illustrative pieces with Prismacolor. I haven't really tried with Crayola. I mean, I have to some extent in like elementary, middle school, things like that, but like when I started doing like art shows and like competitions and stuff, like at that point it was always with like Prismacolor, and Prismacolor can be quite gracious with layering and getting your colors to kind of melt together and almost have like that oily, oil painty vibe, which I really love. I mean, as you can see here, to get that fleshy skin tone look, I'm using all kinds of colors here. I have this like kind of swampy olive green, but I'm using this like right above the lip line, and I know like naturally you don't always see this color on or around someone's lip line, but just for the sake of getting the flesh tones to where I want them to be, I kind of have to take this approach. Plus I'm using what supplies I have left over, so it's going to take a minute. With that in mind, I do still have my merchandise piece that I have to continue working on in the background, and I'm just kind of plugging away at this, but it has not been easy, you guys. I've been having really bad fatigue the entire summer, but just really working on staying focused, holding myself accountable, setting aside a couple of hours a day to hit some certain milestones with this illustration, because I really do want to have a nice solid piece to use as prints for the gift shop for the exhibition when the time comes. And yeah, I really love doing pieces in Procreate. I do pieces and illustrations in Procreate all the flipping time. I feel like if you scroll through my TikTok and Instagram, 95% of the pieces that I have there are like from Procreate. I just think it is such a fun and easy to use app. And working on this piece in Procreate has also been my happy place as well. It's been a really nice breath of fresh air and palette cleanser from doing traditional art. Not to say that traditional art is something I need a palette cleanser from, but anything that helps to break up the monotony. I think I have a comfort zone in both, where you hit a certain stride and you feel really comfortable and at ease, and it's nice to be in that state. I really hope that you guys enjoyed part 1 of my art vlog. We are all done with all of the work and we are picking up the piece from the print shop to show in the exhibition. Here she is in all of her glory, but the question is, what did I end up submitting? How did everything turn out? Did I finish the piece or did I just give up? Watch part 2 to find out.